Welcome back to our shiur on Rambam's Hilkhot Talmud Torah. In our first shiur, we made some introductory remarks about the placement of Hilkhot Talmud Torah in the Mishneh Torah. We also noted the incredible innovation of such a category of law. Nowhere in the Mishnah or Gemara does a category of Hilkhot Talmud Torah exist, and yet Rambam created it. I spent a good amount of time looking at texts that speak to the relevance and importance of Talmud Torah in Rambam's thought, and I ended with an important insight into the nature of mitzvat Talmud Torah for Rambam. Let's pick up where we left off. I want to revisit the way Rambam states and frames mitzvah Talmud Torah in his Sefer HaMitzvot. And so I want to read to you from my Sefer HaMitzvot, Mitzvah Yod Aleph of the Mitzvot Aseh, positive commandments. He, Hatzivui, it's regarding the mitzvah, Shenitztavinu, that we have been commanded, Lilamed Chochmat HaTorah, to teach the wisdom of Torah, Ulelamda, and to learn it. V'zeu hanikra Talmud Torah. And this is what is referred to as Talmud Torah. I noted in the last shiur how Rambam here stands apart from his predecessors, such as Rav Sadia Gaon and Baal Halachot Gedolot, who list teaching and learning as two separate mitzvot. Indeed, an argument can be made for such a position. These are seemingly two separate actions based on differing verses. That is not the position of Rambam. For Rambam, mitzvah Talmud Torah includes both learning Torah and teaching Torah. To be more specific, he first mentions teaching Torah in Sefer HaMitzvot and then learning Torah. The order is not only counterintuitive, but contrary to the way he formulates the mitzvah, as we will see throughout the first and second chapter, and even the third chapter of Hilkhot Talmud Torah and the Mishneh Torah. For Rambam, Talmud Torah is one mitzvah with two separate parts. In his introduction to Sefer HaMitzvot, where he delineates 14 principles that establish the criteria for inclusion of a mitzvah as one of the 613 mitzvot, in principle number 11, Rambam writes as follows: Haklal Hayud Aleph, the 11th principle is She'ein limnot chelkei ha-mitzvah kol chelek benifrad. One, we will not list parts of a mitzvah as an independent mitzvah. Im klalam mitzvah echad. All the parts will be included as one mitzvah. In other words, learning and teaching are two parts of one mitzvah and are therefore listed as one. Rambam adds something very telling in this principle. Klal ze kashe me'od lehavino. This principle, says Rambam, is very difficult to understand. Ve'ofen hakoshi shebo, and the difficulty lies in the following: Ma she'asaper lecha. Vehu, shekol ma she'amru chachamim alav, shedavar ploni uploni me'akvin ze et ze. Every time Chazal speak of one mitzvah impairing, one part of the mitzvah impairing the validity of the entire mitzvah, harei ze barur shezo mitzvah achat. It's evident that Chazal are talking about one mitzvah. When one part of the mitzvah is required in order to fulfill the whole mitzvah, then the parts are just segments of one whole. Limud, then, is me'akev to lilamed. The two aspects of Talmud Torah are required in order to fulfill the mitzvah in its totality. Just learning Torah is not enough in order to fulfill the mitzvah. One has to learn, and one also has to teach. The analogy would be the mitzvah of lulav. You don't fulfill the mitzvah of lulav, and you can't make the bracha unless you have all four species. Just holding a palm branch and an etrog alone is nothing. The mitzvah of lulav requires holding the lulav, etrog, aravot, and hadassim. Similarly, the mitzvah of Talmud Torah is fulfilled when both of its elements are present. You learn and you teach. I would argue even further. The mitzvah is to learn, but the maaseh mitzvah, the actual fulfillment of the mitzvah, is in teaching. This may explain a difficult idea that Rambam repeats numerous times, certainly in Hilkhot, Talmud Torah, but in other places as well. Let's take a look at chapter 3, Halacha Gimel. Harambam says as follows: Ein lecha mitzvah bechol hamitzvot kulan, shehi shekula keneged Talmud Torah. You don't have a mitzvah from among all the mitzvot of the Torah that is equal or equated to Talmud Torah. Ela Talmud Torah keneged kol hamitzvot kulan. Rather, Talmud Torah is equal to all the mitzvot. Shehat Talmud mevi lidei maaseh. Here is the critical line. Because study leads to maaseh. Lefikach haTalmud kodem lemaaseh bechol makom. Therefore, study will always precede the maaseh everywhere. First, one has to learn, and then actions follow. What maaseh is Rambam talking about here? Other mitzvot? Maybe. He may be saying that one can only observe mitzvot if one is learned. And learning will ultimately lead to the observance of mitzvot. This may be or may not be true. Learning doesn't always lead to observance of mitzvot. I venture to say that many uneducated people do observe mitzvot. What if Rambam may also be suggesting that the maaseh here is teaching? Learning leads to teaching. And the combination of the two is the fulfillment of the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. The reverse is, of course, absurd. You can't teach if you have not learned. Ve'ein maaseh mevi lidei Talmud. This formulation of weaving learning and teaching makes the study of Hilkhot Talmud Torah a bit more complicated. I said this in my first shiur, and I repeat it again. You cannot learn these halachot in a linear fashion like you would say Hilkhot Shabbat. Actually, Shabbat is not a good example, but I think you get my point. What appears to be jumping from topic to topic is actually a beautiful tapestry of the law. In my first shiur, I referred to these halachot as a work of art, and I stand by that description. Let us look at the text. In the introduction to the laws of Talmud Torah, Rambam says the following: Yesh bichlalan shtei mitzvot aseh. There is here two positive mitzvot. The first, lilmod Torah. The first is to study Torah. Then we begin with halacha aleph, and Rambam says, Nashim va'avadim uktanim turim mitalmud Torah. Women, servants, and children are exempt from the study of Torah. Aval katan aviv chayav lelamdo Torah. But a child, a father must teach him Torah. Shneimar, as the verse says, v'limadetem otam et bnechem ledaber bam. The proof text is that you shall teach your children and speak this to them. ואין האישה חייבת ללמד את בנה שכל החייב ללמוד חייב ללמד. And a woman is not obligated to teach her son, because only those who are obligated to learn are obligated to teach. He seems to be describing the laws of teaching Torah, but he says he's going to talk about learning Torah. Unless the learner in the first halakha is the child. But the implication clearly is that he is talking to the man. The shift from learning to teaching has troubled many commentators on these halachot. This does not trouble me, because as I said, Rambam here weaves for us the mitzvah of learning and teaching and teaching and learning. Let's take a look at halacha Gimel and Daled, 3 and 4. Halacha, Rambam says as follows: Mi shelo limdo aviv chayav lelamed et atzmo kesheyakir. One whose father did not teach him is obligated to teach himself when he recognizes the need. Shne'emar ulmadetem otam ushmartem lasot, as the pasuk says, and you shall study them, the laws, in order to observe them and do them. V'chein ata motzeh bechol makom she'atalmud kodem lemaaseh. Rambam here again repeats this principle, as we find everywhere, that Talmud study precedes maaseh. Mipnei she'atalmud mevi lidei maaseh, because study leads to maaseh. Ve'ein ha'maaseh mevi lidei Talmud, but maaseh, action, does not lead to Talmud. He continues. We see clearly here this weaving of study and teaching. Halacha Dalet, hu haya hu rotze lilmod Torah veyesh lo ben lilmod Torah. He wants to study Torah, but he also has a son who needs to study Torah, and he could only afford, or is only able, to have one of them teach. Hu kodem livno. Rambam says clearly, you take precedence over your child. However, ve'im haya beno navonu maskil, but if the son is sharp and precocious, lehavin ma she'ilmad yoter mimenu, to understand better than the father, beno kodem, we give the son precedence. Ve'af al pi shebeno kodem lo ibatel hu. Even though we're giving the son precedence, one has to continue studying oneself. Shekeshem shemitzvah alav lilamed et beno, kachu mitzvah lilamed et atzmo. Because, as the Rambam concludes over here, the mitzvah involves not just teaching the son, but also learning. Again, this beautiful weaving of these two ideas, learning and teaching, which make up the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. Now, here Rambam clearly states everyone has the obligation to learn. But what if you have a choice, has to be made, myself or my son? It depends on who will get more mileage of learning. Why does this factor in? So what if the son is more precocious? If I too have an obligation, why shouldn't I take precedence? The answer is that Talmud Torah, as I mentioned in my previous shiur, is not only about the individual. Talmud Torah has communal and national implications. And for the sake of the people, we sometimes have to defer to others. In this case, it's the father deferring to the son. The student today will be the teacher tomorrow. Let's continue in chapter 1. You have halacha 6 and 7, where he seems to be focusing on teaching of the child. Me'imatai aviv chayav lilamdo Torah. From when, from what age is the father obligated to begin teaching his son Torah? Mi sheyatchil ledaber, from the time the child begins to speak. Milamdo, he teaches him. Torah tzivalanu Moshe. The pasuk which states that Moshe has commanded us the law, the Torah. Upasuk rishon mi parashat Shema. And the first pasuk, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Ve'achar kach melamdo me'at me'at psukim ad sheyeh ben sheish or sheva. And then he teaches them verse by verse until the child is 6-7 years old. Hakol lefi buryo, everything according to the ability of the child. Umolicho eitzel milamei tinokot, and he takes the child to an educator, to a teacher. He continues over here, Hayamin haga medina likach milamei tinokot sachar, and he goes on to the various laws about paying a teacher, not paying a teacher, and what the general custom is. These halachot seem to be focusing on the mitzvah of teaching the child, only to take us back and revert us back to the idea of the obligation to study. Halacha chet, 8, 9, and 10. Kol ish mi Israel chayav betalmud Torah. Every man in Israel is obligated to study Torah. Bein ani, bein ashir, poor or rich, gadol v'tashash kocho. He might be healthy or he might be weak. Bein shalem begufo, bein bali surim. He might be healthy or might be weak. Bein bachur, bein shehaya zaken gadol v'tashash kocho. Whether he's young or old. Afilu haya ani amitparnes min tzedakah. He may be so poor that he's dependent on charity, umchazer ala ptachim, and he goes knocking door to door. Afilu balisha ubanim. He may have a wife and children. Chayav likboa lo zman letalmud Torah. One has to make time for the study of Torah. Sheneimar ve'agita bo yomam v'layla, as the pasuk says, and you shall be engaged in it day and night. He continues, halacha tet. Gdolei chachmei Yisrael hayu mehem chotvei etzim mehem shoavei mayim. The great scholars of the Jewish people, some were wood choppers and others water carriers, the lowest of jobs. Nevertheless, they devoted time to the study of Torah day and night. This is very important. And each individual who makes time for the study of Torah is a link in the Masoret from us back to Moshe Rabbeinu. Ad eimatai chayav lilmod, until when is a person supposed to study? Ad yom moto, until the day that he dies. Shene'emar upen yasur milavecha kol yemei chayecha. Lest these words leave your heart all the days of your life. So beautiful. And we have this jumping from teaching to learning and learning to teaching. A side point, but an important point. Notice in Halacha Vav the curriculum of a child beginning to learn Torah. The verse Rambam chooses is Torah tzivalanu Moshe, Morasha Keilat Yaakov. Moshe Rabbeinu commanded us the study of the law. It's the inheritance of the house of Jacob. Why this verse? Because Judaism, at the end of the day, is about Jewish law. How we live, observing God's command. Avraham Avinu is introduced in the Torah when he answers God's command, Lech Lecha, leave your home. You first teach the child the principle of law and then philosophy of Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. God is one. let me add that for Rambam, belief in Hashem is a function of the law. It is the first halakha in the Mishneh Torah. Yesod ha-yesodot ve'amud ha-chokhmah ladat sheyesh Eloha. The principle, the foundation of all foundations is to know that there is a God. Let me take a step back and look at the entire Perek Aleph of Hilkhot Talmud Torah from a broader vantage point. The Gemara in Masechet Kiddushin, page 29, Daf Chav Tet, Amud Aleph, says the following. Tanu Rabbanan, Ha'av chayav bivno, a father is obligated to do the following things for his son. Limolo, to give him a brit milah. Livdoto, pidyon haben at 30 days. Ulelamdo Torah, to teach him Torah. Ulehasio isha, to find him a wife. Ulelamdo umanut, to teach him a trade. Veyesh omrim, af lehasito b'mayim. There are those who say, even teaching him how to swim. Rabbi Yehuda adds, Kol she'eino melamed et beno umanut melamdo listot. Anyone who does not teach their child, their son, a trade, it's as if you're teaching your child how to be a thief. The first three are the oraita. Lemolo, livdoto, and lelamdo Torah. Brit milah, pidyon haben, and the study of Torah are all biblically commanded. They also share some similar ideas. With regards to Brit Milah, Rambam rules and actually states in his Perush La Mishnah in Mishnayot Shabbat, a text that I recently studied during one of my Perashah classes, Rambam on the Perashah. At the end of chapter 19, in Rambam's Perush La Mishnah, he says as follows. Umima shetzarich le'askir kam. It's important that we remind ourselves here. She'im avar adam velo malit beno, o yelid beito, v'chamal alav beyom hashmini. If a man does not circumcise his child because he has mercy upon him on the 8th day, harei ze avar al mitzvat aseh gdola v'chamura. He has transgressed a very serious transgression. She'ein b'chol mitzvot kamao, because it doesn't compare to any other mitzvah. Rambam continues. V'chein kol mi shero'eh et hayeled hazeh ha'arel velo malo harei ze over al mitzvat aseh at she'imol oto ke'ilu hu beno. And anyone who sees this child that is uncircumcised and does not take it upon himself to circumcise this child also transgresses a mitzvah, and he must circumcise this child as if it was his own. Im gadal hayeled vehigia lichlal onshim nistalek hachiyuv me'al kol adam ve'nitchayev hu lemol et atzmo miyad. When the child grows up, all of a sudden the obligation does not fall upon anybody else, but upon the individual child himself. I read this now because this comment came to mind when I read and I studied Halacha Bet and Gimel in Hilkhot Talmud Torah. The striking similarity is compelling. Let me read the Halacha. Kishem shechayav adam lelamed et beno, kach hu chayav lelamed et ben beno. Just as an individual is obligated to teach his own son, he is obligated to teach his grandson. Shene'emar, ve'odatam levanecha v'livnei banecha. You shall teach your children and grandchildren. Ve'lo beno uben beno bilvad. But this halacha is not limited to your son or grandson, your children or grandchildren. Ela mitzvah kol chacham v'chacham Yisrael elamed et kol hatalmidim af al pi she'inam banav. Rather, the mitzvah is upon every chacham in Israel to teach as many students as possible, even though they are not his children. Shene'emar v'shinantam levanecha, the pasuk says, and you shall teach your children. Mipi Shmuel lamdu, banecha elu talmidecha, she'atalmidim kru'im banim. We learn that your children are your students, and your students are considered your children. The similarity is compelling. Talmud Torah, like Milah, is an obligation first on the father to teach, then on the community, and on the individual. This is also true of Pidyon Haben as well. Again, the idea here is that Talmud Torah has communal implications. I read this earlier, and it's important we see it again. At the end of Halacha Tet, Harambam says, Veheim michlal ma'atikei hashmu'ah. Every individual that takes upon himself to study Mimatikei hashmu'ah is part of the masoret, the heritage, the linkage. Ish mipi Moshe Rabbeinu. One to the next, all the way to Moshe Rabbeinu. My last thoughts on this chapter have to do with Halacha 1 and Halacha Yod Gimel. The first halacha in this chapter begins as follows. Nashim va'avadim uktanim peturim mitalmud Torah. Women, servants, and children are exempt from the study of Torah. Halacha Yud Gimel. Isha shelamda Torah, says Rambam, a woman who chose to study Torah, yesh la sachar. She is deserving of reward. Aval eino kischar aish mipnei shelo nitztavad. However, her reward is not like that of a man because she is not obligated. V'chol ha'oseh davar she'eino mitzuveh alav la'asoto ein tzcharo kitzchar mitzuveh she'asa. And there's a principle in halacha that all those who fulfill a mitzvah voluntarily do not get the same reward as one who fulfills a mitzvah obligatorily. Ve'af al pi sheyesh la sachar tzivu chachamim shelo yilamed adam et bito Torah. And even though she is deserving of reward, our chachamim have commanded us that a man should not teach his daughter Torah. Mipnei sherov hanashim ein datan mechuvenet leitlamed. Most women aren't focused in the way, in that sense, in order to be taught. Amru chachamim kol hamelamed et bito Torah ki'ilu limdat tiflut. Our chachamim have said, all who teach their daughter Torah, it's as if he taught her tiflut. Bamed devarim amurim. In what context? What does this mean? B'Torah shebal peh. That only applies in the oral Torah. Aval Torah shebichtav lo yilamed ota lechatchila. However, the written Torah, one should ideally not teach her. Ve'im limda eino kemelamda tiflut. However, if he did teach her Torah shebichtav, that is not as if he taught her tiflut. Rambam's ruling is partly, and I emphasize partly, based on a Mishnah in Masechet Sotah. The Mishnah records a dispute between Ben Azai and Rabbi Eliezer. Ben Azai rules a man is obligated to teach his daughter Torah. Ironically, Ben Azai was never married and did not have any children. Rabbi Eliezer is the one who states, Kol ha-melamed et bito Torah ki ilu limda tiflut. Whoever teaches his daughter Torah, it's as if he teaches her tiflut. Rashi and Tosafot here define tiflut as having something to do with sexual connotations, which of course would make Rabbi Eliezer's ruling quite extreme. Rambam, in his Perush La Mishnah, is much softer and translates tiflut as vanity, something vain, significantly less severe than his Ashkenaz counterparts. Rambam, however, does quote Rabbi Eliezer. He adds, however, two important novel ideas which are actually very significant. Number one, a woman can learn, and if she does, she is rewarded, not like one who is commanded, because we have a principle in Jewish law that one who is commanded will always reap a greater reward than one who is voluntarily observing a mitzvah. The reason for this has to do with the motive. While doing a mitzvah voluntarily is indeed praiseworthy, it does not compare to one who does it because he or she feels the weight and responsibility and duty of Hashem's command. The second novel idea Rambam introduces here, and I will add that he completely stands out amongst all his contemporaries, the Rishonim that followed him and preceded him, is the idea that there are parts of Torah a father can teach his daughter. And if he does teach her, it's not considered tiflut. Rabbi Yosef Kapach claims that Rambam must have had a source for this idea, but it has been lost to us. In other words, he has no idea where Rambam got this from. I argue that Rambam was way ahead of his times, and he understood that educated women learn and need to have access to Torah. This is the source for both Rabbi Soloveitchik and Rabbi Lichtenstein endorsing women learning Torah at the highest levels. Let me close with the Psak Halacha of Rabbi Chaim David Halevi, author of a set of Sheilot Utshuvot called Asay Lecharav. Rabbi Chaim David Halevi was the former chief rabbi of Tel Aviv, and in volume 2, chapter 52, he was asked regarding women learning Torah. He makes two important points on this matter. One, the Mishnah never says it is asur, forbidden for women to learn Torah. It only addresses a father teaching a daughter, kol hamelamed et bito Torah, but says nothing about a woman learning herself or creating learning opportunities for herself. In other words, of course a woman who has a desire to learn Torah should indeed go ahead and learn. Number two, he states, today women are doctors, lawyers, and hold positions of influence in society. And so we must make Torah available to them at the highest level. I close with the following thought. The last line of Perek Dalid in Hilkhot Yesodei Torah of the Rambam says the following. Throughout chapter 4, Rambam describes Torah at the highest level. The level of Pardes, the level where one is studying Maaseh, Merkavah, and Maaseh Bereshit. And Rambam begins the chapter by saying that the only way to embark on this high level of study is to first, Lemale Kreiso Bebasar, one has to learn the basics, the fundamentals, Halacha, Isur Veheter. At the end of this chapter, Rambam says the following: Ve'efshar sheyedaem hakol. anyone can achieve this level of study. Efshar sheyedaem hakol. All are presented with the opportunity to achieve this level of study. Gadol ve'katan, old and young. Ish ve'isha, man or woman. Ba'alev rachav u'ba'alev katzar. One with a grand spirit, one with a smaller spirit. In other words, at the end of Hilkhot, chapter 4 of Hilkhot Yesodei Torah, Rambam includes women in the opportunity for study and for achieving the highest levels of Torah study. I thank you for your attention. I hope to post a third shiur on Hilkhot Talmud Torah in the next couple of days. Thank you.